Blake Lively thought she could outsmart the system, but tonight that illusion shattered in the harsh light of a courtroom reality. The judge didn't just deny her motion, he dismantled her entire defense piece by piece, revealing a truth she never wanted the world to see. What just happened inside that courtroom has Hollywood in shock, and it might change everything for her career, her reputation, and her carefully built image forever. Blake Lively is standing on the edge of the most shocking courtroom twist Hollywood has seen in years, and the air inside that federal chamber feels charged with the kind of silence that comes before an explosion, as the judge leans forward, asking why anyone thought it was acceptable to bring such a matter before the jury without notice, that single question slicing through the tension like a blade, because everyone in that room knows what it means. It is not just a question about legal process. It is a statement about power, influence, and the walls of protection that had surrounded one of the most famous names in the industry for far too long. And now that wall is cracking from the inside, the moment the new judge took over the case, everything changed. The air of confidence that had once defined Blake's team vanished, replaced by confusion and whispers that spread faster than wildfire. When Chief Judge Deborah Ann Livingston approved an official investigation into the previous rulings, it was like a lightning strike across the legal community, because it meant something unthinkable had happened, that there might have been bias at the very heart of a case involving one of Hollywood's biggest stars, and that realization sent shockwaves far beyond the courthouse. The story began as what looked like a simple civil dispute between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, two high-profile figures who had once planned to collaborate on a meaningful project about mental health and resilience. But what started as creative differences quickly transformed into accusations of betrayal, interference, and manipulation. When the original judge Louis J. Lyman dismissed two major claims, the reasoning seemed almost deliberately thin, citing vague jurisdictional issues that left both legal experts and the public wondering if something deeper was going on. Whispers of connections began circulating, whispers that refused to die. And then came the discovery that changed everything: that Judge Lyman's own brother had undisclosed financial ties to Orion Talent Group, a company connected to Blake's professional network. It was not a rumor. It was fact confirmed through corporate filings, and when the press got hold of it, the scandal erupted overnight. People wanted answers. How could a ruling that carried such massive implications for both parties have been made under such a cloud of undisclosed conflict? The appellate court moved faster than anyone expected. Their written opinion not only reversed Lyman's decision, but used language so severe that it bordered on accusation. They declared his reasoning legally insufficient and procedurally inconsistent, and that phrase alone was enough to send every media outlet scrambling for comment when Chief Judge Livingston reassigned the case to Judge Teresa Miguel. The message was clear: the days of quiet influence were over. Judge Miguel had a reputation for being unshakable. She had handled some of the most intense celebrity-related cases before, and she did not play games. Her very first action was to reinstate all the claims that had been dismissed under Lyman, including breach of trust, violation of non-disclosure agreement, reputational harm, and interference in professional opportunity for Justin's team. It was vindication for Blake's. It was panic. And in that moment, the entire balance of the case shifted forever. When the new order hit the docket, the news spread through every corner of the entertainment world, and suddenly the people who had been silent began to talk: insiders from production companies, lawyers with off-the-record comments, even former collaborators, all hinting that something far more coordinated had taken place behind the scenes, and Judge Miguel was determined to uncover it. She issued a directive requiring Blake's legal team to hand over previously excluded materials, including email chains, metadata, and internal communications between her PR consultants and production staff within days. The whispers about what might be in those files turned into outright speculation. Online communities began tracking every update, influencers dissected each document number, and legal blogs treated the docket like a crime map. The more that came out, the darker it seemed. Among the most disturbing developments were the reports that key data had been deleted from iCloud backups during the earlier phase of discovery, a move that Miguel's court-ordered forensic team would later begin to examine closely. And the most telling thing was Blake's silence. The once media-savvy actress who could control any narrative suddenly had nothing to say. And that silence began to speak louder than any statement could, because everyone watching could sense it, that the story was unraveling in real time inside a courtroom that was no longer under her control. From the start, Miguel made her position clear. She interrupted defense counsel in open court, telling them this was not a press tour. This was a legal proceeding, and they would Either follow the law or be held accountable. The audience gasped. It was the kind of moment that reminded everyone that fame had no immunity here. And in that silence, you could feel the collective realization that for the first time, the power balance had shifted in favor of the truth. And as the hearing continued, it became clear that the days of vague motions and behind-the-scenes manipulation were coming to an end. Judge Miguel had made it clear this would not be another show trial. It would be an examination of evidence, fact, and accountability, and for Blake Lively, that realization might have come too late because what her team had tried to bury was already beginning to surface. And the deeper it went, the more it began to look like. This was not just a legal dispute, but a story of how control can crumble when the truth refuses to stay hidden. The hearing transcripts showed tension, unlike anything seen before. Every lawyer, every assistant, every clerk could feel it. The weight of something massive unfolding, and with each new revelation, the suspense grew thicker, turning the courtroom into a stage of quiet but unstoppable reckoning as Judge Miguel leaned back in her chair and stared over her glasses. Everyone in that room knew one thing: the case had just changed forever. The second phase of this unfolding storm began with a single document that no one was supposed to see, a redacted exhibit mislabeled and accidentally attached to a routine filing by Blake's own defense team. But once that file became public for even a few hours, it was enough to ignite an inferno. The exhibit, known only as X167C, contained fragments of internal emails referencing something called Project Optics. And according to sources within the Hollywood Law Ledger, that name alone was enough to make legal analysts go silent for a moment, because it suggested a level of coordination that went far beyond simple damage control. It was a crisis strategy designed to manipulate perception, timing, and press response. And in that revelation, the story transformed again from a case about evidence to a case about influence. Inside those leaked pages were instructions on how to delay media leaks, how to steer social media discussions away from critical posts, and how to bury trending stories. Beneath unrelated celebrity headlines, one section even outlined plans to identify and neutralize independent commentators before they could gain traction, naming 2 popular podcast shows that had covered the case during its earliest phase. And within 48 hours of that leak, 2 of Blake's junior attorneys resigned, citing irreconcilable ethical conflicts. The exits were quiet but telling, because no one walks away from a multi-million-dollar defense team in the middle of litigation unless something deeper is breaking apart. And soon after that break, investigators connected to the case began tracing communications back to private servers and encrypted messaging apps, revealing a web of coordination that left even veteran legal reporters stunned. The quiet murmurs that had once filled the courtroom had now turned into audible tension, and Judge Miguel wasted no time calling a special session, demanding explanations for the missing data and the sudden resignations she made. It clear that the court would no longer accept general denials or PR-crafted statements. Every answer had to be backed by evidence, and every witness would be examined under oath. What happened next shocked even seasoned court observers, because as new materials were introduced, 2 audio recordings emerged, both previously excluded under Judge Lyman's orders. The first, labeled audio file A4C, was a 10-minute call between Blake and an unidentified consultant, in which her voice could be heard discussing ways to quietly end Justin's professional prospects, while ensuring no direct trace could be linked to her digital integrity labs, confirmed the authenticity of the file, calling it unaltered and original, recorded through an encrypted app back in late 2022. And when the transcript was read aloud in the courtroom, even the defense seemed unprepared for its tone. She could be heard saying, "I will make sure he is quietly removed, no fingerprints." And though the context was still under review, that phrase alone froze the courtroom, because it painted a picture not of miscommunication, but of deliberate orchestration. The second file, known as B9E, was even more explosive, allegedly capturing a conversation with a streaming executive, where she expressed frustration about being overshadowed in the project. Discussions saying that if the project went forward, her influence would be erased, and demanding it be shut down immediately. The voice match was later confirmed by analysts. Though the executive's identity was kept sealed under a limited protective order, this evidence was now admissible, and for the first time, the walls that once protected her public image were beginning to fracture as headlines across major outlets declared the case had entered its most dangerous stage. Yet legal experts began pointing out that if the authenticity of these files held true, they would not only prove intent, but establish a pattern of coordinated interference under federal law. And when Judge Miguel reinstated all 4 of Baldoni's original claims without objection, it signaled that the court itself believed there was substantial merit to move forward. The shockwaves extended beyond the courthouse. Social media erupted, with hashtags connecting the leaked materials to the broader conversation about accountability and power manipulation in Hollywood, while legal commentators drew parallels to historic entertainment disputes that had once reshaped how influence was handled in courtrooms across the United States. Every update from the case now felt like an episode in a series that no one could stop watching, because it had all the elements of suspense, betrayal, and justice colliding in real time. And through it all, Blake remained silent. Her publicist issued no statements, her social accounts went dark, and even her allies in the industry began distancing themselves. The silence from her once loyal network became almost eerie, and as weeks passed, the Quar story turned from speculation to certainty. Judge Miguel announced that the court would hold a closed evidentiary review of all reintroduced recordings and communications, including encrypted messages and deleted backup data. The date, July 12th, was set, and everyone from legal analysts to pop culture commentators knew that whatever emerged from that session could redefine the narrative completely, because in that room, the truth would no longer be filtered through public relations or spin. It would be dissected fact by fact, and the suspense was unbearable. Not just for those watching online, but for those inside the courtroom who could sense that what was being built was no longer just a case file. It was a moment of reckoning that could alter reputations, careers, and maybe even the structure of influence within the entertainment world forever. The courtroom air was thick with tension as the echoes of the gavel slowly faded away, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than any verdict ever could. The look on Blake's face said it all. Her confidence stripped bare, replaced with a hollow stare that spoke of disbelief and quiet humiliation. For months, she had leaned on an empire of image management, a fortress of PR, spin and celebrity support, only to watch it crumble in real time under the cold precision of legal facts, and a judge who refused to be swayed by Hollywood theatrics. What began as a spectacle of stardom and legal grandstanding had turned into a study in accountability, and the public was seeing it unfold frame by frame in the most unfiltered way imaginable. The cameras caught the flicker in her eyes when the judge reminded her team that fame is not immunity, that a headline cannot erase. A contradiction. And that evidence is not a story to be curated, but a truth to be faced. As the courtroom emptied, whispers began to ripple across the hall, journalists tapping at their phones, legal analysts already preparing late-night breakdowns, the internet spinning new theories with every minute. But beneath the noise, one thing was undeniable. This wasn't just a setback, it was a reckoning. The same media machine that had once crowned her as untouchable was now dissecting her every move. And even the most loyal defenders were struggling to keep up with the shifting narrative. What had been painted as a battle for reputation was now clearly about truth, and the cost of bending it too far. The judge's statement cut through every layer of performance. This court will not be used for personal theater, and that line alone was already trending around the world. Justin Baldoni sat quietly through it, all his expression unreadable, not triumphant, but resolute. There was no gloating, no smile of victory, just the stillness of someone who had been waiting too long to be heard. His lawyers exchanged brief nods, but they too knew this was only one chapter closed in a story that had stretched too far for too long. The balance of power had shifted, but the wounds left behind were still raw. The industry was watching closely because this wasn't just about two people locked in legal tension. It was about the system itself, the ways influence gets weaponized, and how truth finds its way through even the thickest layers of fame. When the final court officer turned off the lights, the story was far from over. The next filings would come, the headlines would twist, the narratives would keep evolving, but something irreversible had happened. Blake's control over her own myth had slipped through her fingers, and for the first time, the world wasn't buying the version she was selling anymore. This was no longer a Hollywood drama. This was reality, and the reality was brutal, cold, and public. The judge's decision didn't just end a hearing, it opened a door to accountability that no one in that courtroom could ever close again.